Blue and red lights flashed through my living room like a bad disco, and I hadn't even put the milk in the fridge yet. 2 cops stood on my porch, and Karen, the HOA president, was screaming that I was trespassing in my own house. Minutes later, the HOA's own lawyer read my deed, turned pale, and quit on the spot. But before I could breathe, the tow truck's hook slammed against my boat. And that was only the beginning. Act 1. The Spark. I moved to Lake Pine Harbor for peace. I wanted quiet mornings by the water, fishing at sunrise, helping neighbors with little things like fixing gutters or dropping off toy boats I carved for their kids. That was my kind of life. And for a while it really was that way. When I first bought my place, the HOA president was an older guy named Mr. Benson, a retired teacher with a smile that belonged on a Christmas card. He knocked on my door with a loaf of lemon bread and said, "Around here we wave, we help each other, and the rules are for peace, not power." I believed him. But then he moved to Florida to be near his grandkids, and the board voted in a new president, Karen Whitfield. From day one I knew this woman wasn't about kindness. She blasted out a 6-page email with 53 bullet points, including a rule that said if you left home for more than 24 hours, you had to file a return notice before coming back early. Imagine that, asking permission to walk back into your own house. Karen wasn't just strict. She was the type who measured grass with a ruler, who told a widow her wind chimes were too musical, who scolded a neighbor because his mailbox was too blue. And when I offered her a spare rake while I was clearing leaves from a storm drain, she looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. "I'm the president?" She sniffed and walked off. That should have told me everything. Still, I let it slide. I don't go looking for fights. But Karen. She made it her mission to find them. Act 2. Escalation and the twist. Last month I drove up to my little cabin about an hour away to fix a broken step and get some quiet. The plan was to stay through Monday. But late Saturday, a storm rolled in fast, trees thrashing power lines down, heavy rain hammering the roads. My first thought wasn't about me. It was about my neighbor, Mrs. Green. She's a widow who depends on a medical device that needs electricity. If the power went out, she'd need help with the backup battery. So I packed my truck and headed back home through the storm. On the drive, I even left a voicemail for the HOA office and fired off an email, returning early due to storm checking on neighbor. "We'll file any form you need tomorrow morning." I thought that was enough. I got back just after dark, helped Mrs. Green with her machine, made her tea, and as I left her porch, I saw Karen's white SUV crawl past like a snake. She slowed down, stared at my truck, and sped off. I didn't think much of it until the sirens came. 2 cops at my door, Karen standing behind them with a folder, jabbing her finger like a traffic cop. "He's trespassing in his own home," she shouted. The taller officer looked confused. I handed over my ID, calm as I could. He compared it to the mailbox, nodded. "Karen, it's the same address." Karen wasn't fazed. "Don't let emotions fool you," she snapped. "He didn't file the return notice. His boat's in the wrong dock slot. That's criminal trespass. Criminal because I came home early." Then her lawyer arrived. Andrew Pierce. Gray suit, gray tie, gray everything. He demanded to see my deed. So I pulled out the folder, laid it on the kitchen island. He read it once, twice, a third time. His face drained of color. He looked at me, then at Karen, then back at the paper. Finally, he shut his briefcase and said, "I resign, effective immediately." And he walked out, just like that. Karen froze, mouth open like a fish. Even the cops looked stunned. But Karen, she hissed, "This isn't over." And she meant it. Because just then the tow truck's hook clanged against my boat. That's when I felt it, the sick drop in my stomach. The sound of metal scraping against Mercy, the boat I named after my mom's favorite word. And for a moment I thought maybe I should just give up. I mean, what was the point? Karen had the cops, the board, the rules twisted in her favor. Me, I was just a guy with groceries still sweating in the bag. Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't belong here. But then I looked at the name on my boat. Mercy. I remembered my mom's voice. Name something Mercy and live like you named it. And I thought, no, not tonight. The cop stepped in, holding the driver back. But Karen wasn't done. She called in her backup. Trent, the HOA vice president, strutting up with a red folder and a polo shirt 2 sizes too tight. He jammed a metal sign into my lawn. Property in violation, subject to eviction. Neighbors started opening their doors, porch lights flicking on one by one, eyes watching, kids peeking out. The stage was set. Then headlights again. A black SUV rolled in and out stepped Daniel Roy, a lawyer in a navy suit holding a sealed court order. Cameras from the local news crew flicked on red lights glowing. He handed the paper to the officers. Emergency restraining order, effective immediately. This HOA cannot enforce rules that override developer deed rights. Karen's face twisted. Trent turned red. The crowd buzzed. And suddenly the ground shifted. For the first time, I wasn't the one cornered. Act 3. The showdown. You'd think that would have ended it. Lawyer quits court order in hand, cameras rolling. But power doesn't let go that easy. Trent stepped forward, waving a flash drive. "Compliance audit," he barked. "We'll need access to your house and your security footage. Refuse and we'll fine you every day." I laughed, but not out of humor. "Read the Constitution. You're not the city. You're not the police. You're my neighbors. You don't step foot in my home." The neighbors stirred. Mr. Patel crossed his lawn, soft-spoken but steady. "Stop. You are not the law. If you can't act like neighbors, you should resign." Mrs. Diaz shouted from across the street. "This neighborhood was fine before you turned rules into weapons." The tide was turning, but then a shout cut the air. "Man overboard!" Flashing red strobes lit up the lake. A fishing skiff rocked hard against the dock, someone thrashing in the dark water. My heart jumped. In that instant, all the papers and fines and signs meant nothing. A person was drowning. I bolted to Mercy, unhooked her, shoved her into the water. The cops jumped aboard Mr. Patel, too, clutching a rope with shaking hands. Karen stood frozen on the shore clipboard, useless mouth open. We roared across the black water, one body flailing, then 2. Then we heard there was a third. I dove into the lake myself, cold like knives, my chest screaming for air. I found the boy sinking barely more than a kid, his arms limp. I dragged him up, shoved him toward the boat. The officer and Patel pulled him aboard, started compressions. Seconds stretched into forever. Then cough, sputter, breath. Alive. All 3 saved. The ambulance sirens wailed. The crowd on shore gasped and clapped. And that's when Karen finally spoke, voice shaking. I was wrong," she whispered. "I thought rules would keep us safe. But your boat saved lives. You saved lives. I don't deserve to be president." She ripped off her HOA badge, tossed it into the lake. It floated once, then sank. The neighbors murmured not gossip, but relief. Trent tried to shout, but no one listened. People turned their backs on him one by one until he was standing alone. And me, I stood there on the dock, soaked, exhausted, holding the rope of a boat named Mercy. Ending beat. And that's where it ended. Not with celebration, not with pancakes on the lawn, but with a truth that hit harder than any HOA fine. Power without kindness is just noise, but kindness with courage can change everything.